Good afternoon and welcome to the Rose Theater. Please stand and join me in an invocation. Today, may we be open to others' ideas and beliefs, respectful of our differences, not threatened by them. May we grow in understanding of our own motives, knowing that people often act out of their own fears. May we be a force for replacing fear with insight, helping us all to be patient and kind as we talk. With strength, real strength, and working together, we can find common ground, enabling us to move forward with a shared purpose. May we see what is truly important and unites us, focusing on that and banishing roadblocks of ego and fear. Please remain standing as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. For any veterans who are in the audience, please feel free to render the hand salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. My name is David Larson, and I'm the president of People Actively Promoting Education Reform, the acronym also known as PAPER. First off, are there any elected officials who would like to be recognized in the audience today? Thank you for taking time out of your schedules to attend this presentation on the Common Core State Standards Initiative. Just a little bit about me before we get into the presentation. I'm a retired Marine Master Sergeant, and during my deluxe tour package covering over 21 years, I had the privilege of circumventing the globe twice and touching shores in both hemispheres. This career allowed me the opportunity to visit 44 of our 50 states. As I made my rounds, I soon discovered the diversities that all the communities within the world and the United States had to offer. It made me realize that trying to fit folks from South Carolina into the same box as people from Maine just doesn't work. On top of my Marine Corps career, I have over 20 years working in the private sector with experience in manufacturing and accounting. I have 2 bachelor's degrees of science from Maryville University in St. Louis. Our speaker today is Mrs. Stacey Shore. Stacey does these presentations as her service to her community and at her own expense. Her presentation is lively. You may want to take notes as she encourages you to not take her word for it, but rather research and fact check for yourself the information she presents. There will be controversial information. And that's the way it should be. If what you hear today stirs a call to you to become an activist, regardless of the side that you take on this or any issue, it's a win. And it's a win for the community. And if there ever was a win-win situation, it's that for whatever reason you become active in the political process because of today's presentation. Therefore, I am asking everyone to be respectful so that they can all hear and process the given information here in their own manner. Should you have comments or questions, you are welcome to present them at the end, or you can write them down on the paper provided so that they can be used in a productive manner. One of my favorite quotes from Stacey is, "Why accept just one side when you're from the show me state?" I believe that piggybacks onto this quote. If with heart and soul you're doing good, do you think you can be stopped? Even if you suffer for it, you're still better off. Again, another win-win situation. Stacey has a degree in public administration and political science. She is married to the Camdenton High School head football coach, who is also a teacher. She comes from a long line of educators as well. She is the mother of 3, homeschooling her youngest, while her older children attend public school. About 4 years ago, Stacey noticed things changing in her kids' education. She started asking questions but received no credible answers. That is when Stacey began her journey to gain an understanding of what was happening in her children's schools. What she did not know then, but knows now, is that those changes were the implementation of Common Core. With a background in government and a desire to understand why the drastic reforms in education were threatening local control, Stacey researched, attended multiple hearings in Jefferson City, and testified on behalf of parents, teachers, and the children of Missouri many times over the past 4 years. Stacey Shore is a member of the Missouri Coalition Against Common Core and the Legislative Liaison for Concerned Women for America of Missouri. She has been traveling across the state speaking about Common Core and educating parents on this new reform in education that is affecting their children right now. She has devoted the past year to educating numerous senators and representatives across Missouri. Ladies and gentlemen, Stacey Shore. Please give her a warm welcome.
Hi, thank you guys for coming today on this Sunday. I actually am the Legislative Liaison for Concerned Women for America, and I belong with the Missouri Coalition Against Common Core, and I want to take this time to acknowledge the two women, actually three, on the stage with me. Ann Gassel is a tireless advocate for the children of Missouri and the parents' voice. She is at the Capitol volunteer. We're all volunteer. We make no money for traveling, speaking, going to Jefferson City once a week, twice a week, in her case sometimes 4 times a week. But she's actively working on legislation right now. They're here to take questions at the end, along with me. We hope today, and then the gal right there, that other one, is Gretchen Loge. They're both actually the authors or administrators of Missouri Education Watchdog. Is that right? What's that? Editors. That's a better word. Editors. And Ann is the co-founder of Missouri Coalition Against Common Core. So, and my daughter, and being at the Capitol and just giving us a voice in education. For a long, long time, what I realized, I had never been to Jefferson City, although my background locally, and never to lobby as a citizen lobbyist until last year. I was busy having kids and being a mom that was active. So I wasn't paying a lot of attention, I was trusting. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago, about 4, that I got woke up. But I want to start today with a video that just came out about 3 days ago, 3 days ago. Let me see if I can work my technology and back this up. There's 2 videos I want to start with today. This is a video that just came out from from PBS. And it's going to give you background in what Common Core really is all about and why the rejection. We believe in local control. Common Core is a set of standards, and we don't argue that. If your school likes them, we believe you should be able to keep them. We also believe you should be able to adapt as you see fit. We are not against superintendents or administrators or school boards. Most of you had no idea when this was even brought into your district. We are pro-local control. We are anti-Common Core, but we are not anti-school, anti-teacher, anti-superintendent. We are on your side. And that's what I have watched these ladies and myself. We are advocating for you in Jefferson City to give you a voice in local control, to empower you locally. But I want to start with this video because I think it'll offer some insight as to, it gives both sides, but it really shows where our rejection stems. So Sophie, if you'll go ahead and play it, we'll start here.
This week, Indiana became the first state to drop the so-called Common Core public education standards adopted across much of the country. State officials there will now create their own plan. Indiana may be the first to do so, but likely won't be the last. There is growing anger about the overall role of the federal government in education. And often it focuses on the Secretary of Education. And he's our special correspondent for education, John Merrow, has our report.
Education Secretary Arnie Duncan, who ran the public schools in Chicago for 8 years, is President Obama's friend and trusted confidant. And this former pro basketball player can still hold his own on the court.
Arnie! Oscar! Duncan! Wow! Oh, my, what a look! He's got to be playing on the president's team every figure game, right?
However, with national visibility and power comes criticism. On the right from John Klein, the chair of the House Education and the Workforce Committee.
When you give the cabinet secretary a big pile of money, and then he starts changing policy, and in fact dictating policy, that's acting like a superintendent.
And on the left from Diane Ravitch, author of Reign of Error.
We now have local communities asking their state for permission, and the state asking Arnie Duncan for permission, and Arnie Duncan as the nation's school superintendent.
Why are critics on the left and the right accusing Arnie Duncan of meddling in the nation's 100,000 public schools? How much power do they think he has? How much power does he have? Turns out, quite a lot. Only 9 men and women have served as Secretary of Education. That's because the U.S. Department of Education didn't exist prior to 1979.
This administration declares unconditional war on poverty in America.
Washington became deeply involved in education in 1965 with the passage of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, known as ESEA. It gave money to schools serving impoverished children.
The idea was we have to create social institutions that will help compensate for different kinds of disadvantage.
So it's about equity.
Absolutely.
Everything changed in 2001 with the No Child Left Behind Act, or NCLB.
The fundamental principle of this bill is that every child can learn. We expect every child to learn, and you must show us whether or not every child is learning.
Washington was no longer giving money to help one group, the disadvantaged. Now the federal government wanted results. Every school had to prove that all students could meet the mark. Education historian Jonathan Zimmerman of New York University explains.
I think it was unprecedented in what it had the federal government doing, which is requiring everybody to test the kids in grades 3 through 8, requiring them to disaggregate this data in different ways, including based on race and ethnicity, tying various sanctions, positive and negative, to those outcomes.
If schools did not improve, they faced significant consequences. Schools could be shut down, all teachers and administrators replaced. Before long, the law that everyone once supported was being roundly criticized.
I fell for it. Lots of other people fell for it.
Now everybody knows it won't work. It is time to fix the law.
My plan A was always to work with Congress to fix No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind is fundamentally broken. It is obsolete, had many perverse incentives, led to a dumbing down of standards, led to too much of a focus just on a single test score. So No Child Left Behind is doing, frankly, a lot of harm.
No Child Left Behind, which requires all students to be proficient this year, expired in 2007, but it remains the law of the land until Congress rewrites it. Because not a single state has achieved 100% proficiency, all 50 states are breaking the law, or would be, if Secretary Duncan did not grant them waivers. The waivers are, in effect, carrots to avoid the big No Child Left Behind stick.
The secretary is allowed to grant waivers. His predecessors granted waivers. But what he's doing is granting temporary conditional waivers. That is, you get the waiver if you do what I want you to do.
Duncan has granted waivers to 43 states that have agreed to certain conditions, including using student test scores to evaluate teachers.
That's a terrible way to establish education policy.
Previous secretaries have provided waivers to states on various things. So this is, again, legally, folks are packed with challenges if they want to, but we're on strong, solid footing there. And we're going to continue to partner with states. We're out traveling the country every week. We talk to teachers, we talk to parents, students, school board members, and hopefully what you've seen is a much better sense of partnership.
When the economy tanked in 2009, Secretary Duncan's power over education increased dramatically. A desperate Congress approved a $100 billion education stimulus package to keep schools from shutting down. teachers from being laid off. Nearly $5 billion of that was discretionary, meaning that Duncan could spend it as he saw fit. No previous Secretary of Education had ever had such power. In 2009, the president announced a competition for the money.
Rather than divvying it up and handing it out, we are letting states and school districts compete for it.
Testing 1, 2, check 1, 2.
Almost every state entered the race, but few were expected to win.
We're nervous.
So states will get money if they do this thing that Duncan wants.
If you play by these rules, absolutely right.
Some of us like to talk about race to the top as No Child Left Behind on steroids. The principles of race to the top are the same as No Child Left Behind, which is, we're going to reward states that set and maintain a high standard.
States that agreed to Duncan's conditions, including developing common standards and assessments, and using student test scores to evaluate.
Sorry, I'm not used to this remote, so it was on, actually, Sophie, can you put it back? Sorry, I'm so sorry. Can you scroll to the
These are 45 states
The next
that
slide.
voluntarily come together.
Sorry, this technology, I'm not too technologically savvy, my bad. Anyway, Sophie, we'll just stop and move on. Here's the point with the video. Oh, go to the next one. If you guys want to add anything too, pick up your mic. We're all sisters. I'll let you add.
Developing common
Here we
standards
go,
and
here we go.
assessments, and using student test scores to evaluate teachers had a better chance of winning.
I'm a much bigger believer in carrots and not sticks, and if you encourage people to go in a certain direction, if they want to go in a different direction, they absolutely have the right to do that.
What the secretary called encouragement, his critics saw as coercion.
The states went along with Race to the Top because they were all broke.
You're saying the states were bought?
Yes, of course.
During the Race to the Top competition, a coalition of states released the Common Core state standards. These were developed with money from private foundations, not federal dollars. 45 states in the District of Columbia adopted them.
If you adopt the Common Core, you're much more likely to get Race to the Top grants, much more likely to get a temporary conditional waiver. And that puts the secretary in the business of starting to drive national standards and perhaps national tests and national curriculum. We don't want that.
The Common Core is not curriculum. It's up to individual states to develop how and what to teach. But Duncan's education department has funded the development of Common Core tests to the tune of about $350 million.
I believe this new generation of assessments is an absolute game changer for American education.
Duncan's critics say he went too far when he financed the tests.
The law is very clear that no agent of the U.S. government may do anything to direct, control, or supervise curriculum and instruction.
Testing is not curriculum.
No, it's not, but it controls curriculum. Testing, what is tested is what gets taught. Everybody knows that.
That's the ultimate fear, that the federal government does get in the curriculum business and tells the states what they're supposed to teach.
As for the secretary, he stays resolutely on message.
It's important to have high standards. We've encouraged that. How you teach to those higher standards. The curriculum behind that, we have never touched that, never have, never will do that.
Although the discretionary dollars are almost gone, Secretary Duncan still has the power to grant or withhold waivers. And if any of the 46 states with Race to the Top funding or NCLB waivers do not live up to their end of the bargain, the Secretary could force them to return millions of dollars.
I actually have been speaking to John Klein and members of the House Education Committee, and that actually is an incorrect statement. They have assured me we will not lose dollars, we cannot return money. Now, Race to the Top state award winners might have to do something with the money, but Missouri was not. The only thing that Missouri might possibly lose is the flexibility in how we spend our Title I dollars, but we will not lose money.
So the point is, with this, it's bipartisan. A lot of people would like for you to believe that it's just a bunch of conservative, right-wing people that don't like this. That's absolutely not true, and I've said it many times. When you have a child that's in school and you know they're struggling, they don't understand, and you meet a mom for the first time who relates to the story you tell, you don't ask her before she signs up to be one of us. I mean, a mom who's concerned, wait a minute, what political party are you? We don't care. Our children are struggling. It's not making sense. Our teachers are going to be hurting very soon, if not already, and some of them already are. So that's where we're here. The issue that we have is the federal involvement. And you're going to be told time and again the federal government has had no role in this. But that's simply not true. I'm going to play one more video. There's a video coming out tomorrow that is, it's from the HSLDA, the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. And they've actually done a video on both sides. There are people on both sides of the issue. I ask you in being here today just to be educated. Not to believe anything that we say, but learn the questions to ask for yourself so you can go do your own research. So that's what we're here for. Let me see if I get this to work. So if you play this one. This is short, but I want you to be watched for this tomorrow because it'll be a good one.
These are 45 states that have voluntarily come together to create fewer, higher, deeper standards. They're world class.
The 5 people who didn't agree to sign the letter simply were expunged from the record.
The real issue in American education is that people without a whole lot of experience are dictating education policy.
I'm trying to think of something analogous to this that slipped through so easily on a national basis. I really can't.
Is the most meaningful reform of our public schools in a generation.
Common Core.
Throw away their local standards. And so I think just being straightforward, continuing to tell the truth is very important.
We had to sign a confidentiality agreement that we would not ever discuss what took place in the meeting itself.
Just against Common Core.
It's controversial.
Race to the middle.
The biggest misconception that Common Core proponents push on people is that there is any evidence that a system like Common Core will benefit children.
To do education reform right, you need standards, but you also need greater parental choice. And I think the best argument for this Common Core are the standards themselves.
It takes power from the parent. It de-incentivizes the parent from a deep and abiding interest in their child's education.
A Maryland parent.
The rest of last week speaking out about Common Core.
Don't stand for this. You're sitting here like cattle. You got questions. You want them. They don't want it.
They're not accountable to the public.
What is the best case scenario?
I don't see that.
Show us the most innovative plans to improve teacher quality and student achievement, we'll show you the money. We launched a competition called Race to the Top. And these standards were developed, by the way, not by Washington, but by Republican and Democratic governors throughout the country.
The Common Core is a project of 2 organizations in Washington, D.C.
People need to know about the Common Core because standards undergird everything in the education system.
The federal government was pushing states to align.
They're trying to quantify everything, and this will make it all right. No, we'll be a nation where nobody's doing it.
The people who support Common Core believe in elites and bureaucrats telling thousands of other people what to do.
Remember the Wizard of Oz, where he was the little man standing behind the big controls. But in this case, there isn't even a little man.
Tomorrow, it comes out tomorrow. It's a 30-minute version. My name is Stacey Shore. I'm the mother of 3. I sell real estate at Lake of the Ozarks. I live in Camdenton, Missouri. My husband, as you heard, is a school teacher. My mother and father-in-law were school teachers. My brother-in-law is a school teacher. I am an advocate for school teachers. When we are in Jefferson City, those 2 women, they're advocates for school teachers. We hear what your Commissioner of Education says every time she goes to a hearing. We're there firsthand watching on your behalf. And we can speak to that. I started a Facebook page about 5 months ago. It's called Missouri Moms Against Common Core. If you have an interest and you do Facebook, I don't Facebook other than this. I never have, so it's been interesting. I kind of like social media now. So cool. Had 600 likes just this week, which is really, I didn't know what a like was 5 months ago, and now I'm like all over, like 600 likes in a week is wow, it's awesome. But anyway, but if you want to stay connected to what's happening in the state, we stay connected this way. So if you're interested, if not, if you leave us your email address, the Missouri Coalition of Common Core and the Concerned Women for America, we blitz with emails to let you know when there's going to be a hearing, what's happening on the bills that we're watching, what the bills we were watching are. And I love this saying, but I'm not sure how to go back. Oh, the truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it, you let it loose and it defends itself. That is why our movement nationwide is growing. You've heard a lot of talking points, but you haven't heard the other side. We tell the other side. So that's where you're seeing states in Missouri kind of going crazy, because the truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it, it grows legs exponentially, doesn't it, Tony? I love this saying, and I'll start with this. A nation of well-informed men and women who have, actually it's just men, but I put in women because women are meaner, who have been taught to know and prize the rights which God has given them cannot be enslaved. It is in the region of ignorance that tyranny begins. You're here today because you want to know more. And like I said, you don't have to believe a word I say, but learn to do your own research and never take anyone at face value. That's what we've done. My story starts here. One of them's right here. This is my Sophie. That's Sophie. My laser works. I love it. This is my Sophie. She's 16. My Bo is 14 and Bear is 9. And my story began, again, I'm married to a teacher, and my mother-in-law is a teacher. She was a 5th grade teacher. She's retired. And so when my story began, it was 4.5 years ago. Now, I did not know at the time Common Core was coming into our state. I had no idea. But I did know that we jumped off of what I call a math cliff. And the kids, my experience prior with my son was that in 1st grade, the very first of 1st grade, I was told he needed to go into something called reading recovery, which I was totally all for, because if he needed more help, he should get more help. But what happened was I went out and I bought a magnet board and I bought hooked on phonics, and I was kind of like obsessed with helping him read, you know, because like the parent thing, we're supposed to be a team. And so I got really active in helping. So every night we would sound out words. I'm not a teacher, but he was getting it. And about 2 weeks later, I get called in from his teacher. I get a call, and she's like, "Can you come in and talk to me?" I said, "Sure." And I go in, and I sit down, and she goes, "Have you been helping Bo at home?" I was like, "Yes, I have. Yes, I have." And I thought she was complimenting me. But she looked at me, and she just said, "Okay." And she was super nice. I mean, I loved almost all of my kids' teachers. Super nice. She's "Okay, you really need to stop. You are only confusing him." Well, I had no idea what that meant. Because every night we were sounding out, bat, cat, and he was reading, and I could see it. But I stopped. Not really understanding why I was supposed to stop, but I was not a teacher. I didn't know what whole language was, or balanced literacy, or any of that stuff. I did not know. But I will tell you that 2 years later, as a 3rd grader, he could not read any better than he could as a 1st grader. So one night, his daddy came home, and he shut the bedroom door. It was during football season. And he shuts the bedroom door, and he wasn't near tears. I was in tears, because we were losing him. He felt dumb. And that is a really helpless place to be as a parent, as a mama. That's a really helpless place to be. And he felt dumb because he couldn't read. So my husband shuts the bedroom door, and he just said, "What do we do? What do we do?" And, you know, I thought, okay, was he in the birth canal for too long? I mean, you think of all these things, like, you know, I mean, serious, you don't know. But what we did do was, it was just so strange. I said, "I don't know what to do," because he was in Title I reading. And he just wasn't engaged, but he couldn't read. And I was told not to help him, and I didn't. But what happened then was strange, because we jumped off of what I call the math cliff. And that's when I started getting mad. Because he would bring home word problems every night, and there would be like 5 of them, and they would be like word problems written by adults for adults. I would have to read them for him. And I'd have to read them to him, and then we would extrapolate the numbers, and I would do 28 plus 12, and I taught him to carry the 1. And his little brain got math. He got it, working right to left, carrying, and I would send back all of the answers back to school because I was helping him. They'd come back to me with every single answer counted wrong. So I called the teacher, and I said, "Okay, yeah, room mom," they all knew me. "Yeah, what's up with the math? What's up with the math? I mean, all his problems are counted wrong, but I know they're right." She's like, oh yeah, it's not about the answer, it's about the process. He didn't show the right process. I'm like, "But he showed his work." She's like, "But it's not about that, it's about the process." So my journey began, and I went in and talked to his principal with my husband, who happened to work for the principal at the time. And he looked at me before we went in, he's like, "You be nice." I said, "I'll be nice. I am always nice." That was my warning, because that was his boss. So I sat down and I said, "Okay, I'm confused about the math. Are we going to be teaching he's a third grader, remember. Are we going to be teaching multiplication tables this year?" He goes, no. We're a generation of 21st century learners, which that's the first time I heard that comment. I'm like, okay. Oh, no, multiplication, no. And this, I'll never forget it, because I swear I was silent after this. I had no words. Because he told me, he said, we're a 21st generation learner. We're developing 21st generation skills. Rote memorization, and I quote, is a waste of brain power. We're a generation of cell phones and calculators now. We don't need to memorize. I was just like, I really couldn't talk. I thought, okay, am I being punked? You start looking for cameras. Like, serious? No. And so, anyway, what happened was we left, and I said, "This is ridiculous. This is just ridiculous." And what happened is the parents started, and I would go to football games, so I was writing letters to my superintendent, or I was going to talk to my superintendent, writing letters to the school board. I would go to the school board and talk, and they would just look at me when I would ask questions. Nobody would answer a question. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why are right answers wrong and wrong answers right? And what we did then is we pulled our boy out of Title I reading. We signed him out, and they're like, "Well, we don't advise against it. He can't read." We're like, "We know." We put him with a teacher who taught at the school, but she taught what she wanted at night. You know what she taught him? Phonics. He was reading at grade level in about 4 weeks. That's when I stopped trusting and I started researching. I started to understand something was terribly wrong, but I didn't understand what it was. But what I understood as a parent was that when I was going to math nights and they were saying, "Don't help your kid because you're only going to confuse them," I'd be like, "Guys, if you're not going to help him with 3 + 3 = 6, and you're going to let the school be his expert and tell him I don't know how to do math, we have problems." That's where my journey began. It wasn't until about 1.5 years ago I met these women, and my life has never been the same. But these are problems that if you have kids in school right now, you might identify with. Every time I see a math word problem, it looks like this. If I have 10 ice cubes and you have 11 apples, how many pancakes will fit on the roof? Answer, purple, because aliens don't wear hats. You gotta write that out, you gotta spell that out. If you have kids in school, like everybody that have kids, they're like, "That's not happening." Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, yes, so you're nodding your head, and we all know. Yes, we do. Advance. Common Core math. This is the problem. What they do is they teach children all these different methods, but they don't show them the one that teaches them to be the fastest, most efficient problem solver. Every method, but it seems like to me as their mama. When she was a 5th grader, and she'll tell you, I back came unglued one night, she brings home an answer. She put 8 × 7 = 56, just simple. But she got it counted wrong because she didn't